Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm Yatin from Cte, and I'd like to welcome you all to SIP Talks. This is the IT track of SIP Talks, where we focus on internship journeys in software and related fields. Each of our four speakers will be speaking for about 15 minutes each, sharing their experiences and tips. After all the speakers are finished, the panel will be open for a Q&A session where you can ask any questions you have. In this session, you'll hear practical insights from four accomplished seniors: Ronan Corteno, Kushagra Malviya, Arjun Jagtap, and Shiv Patel, who have secured internships at top companies like Google, Oracle, Arista, and Apriva.
Hi all, my name is Yashvi from Cte. Our first speaker is Ron, an upcoming software engineering intern at Google. Let us hear from him about his journey, preparation strategy, and interview experience. Over to you, Ronan.
Okay, hi guys. So I'm Ronan. I'll be speaking about my experience with the Google interview and in general how I prepared for the coding rounds. So just a quick question before I start. How many of you all are prepared to give a coding round tomorrow? Yep, I don't see many reactions. So this is what Molly sir used to do to us like every 2 months. And now it's actually time because if you see last year, the Google coding round at least was on 20th of July. So it will happen around the same time this year. You'll have less than 2 months left. So it's time you'll get serious about this. I'll be sharing the way I prepared for the coding rounds and the interviews. But remember that every one of us, each one of the four of us, have prepared in different ways. Listen to all of us with an open mind, right? So by now, you all must be knowing in an IT interview, three main topics questions will be asked from. You have DSA, OOPS, DBMS. For OOPS, I did Kunal Kushwaha ka playlist, which is on YouTube. For DBMS, I just revised Shubhangi ma'am's slides. And for DSA, I'll tell you all in detail. These other two things, the other speakers might be able to elaborate more. So in Google, the interview is just about DSA. No other topics are asked. In DSA, what I did was I completed the entire A to Z driver sheet completely. I did lead code around the time of interview. I had completed around 350 to 400 questions on lead code. And something I'd suggest you all to do is always do the question of the day on lead code because it will help you revise all your previous topics as well. And the another good thing about lead code is that you already get the solutions available and you have multiple people writing that solutions. So you have multiple different perspectives of solving that problem already given to you, unlike the other coding platforms. Then apart from lead code, did the graphs and DP part of CSES. I felt that once you completed the driver sheet, the CSES question set almost covered every concept on graphs and DP. So that's what I did for my DSA prep. In terms of resume, you must be knowing that they don't ask much in depth about resume, nor do they care that much about the projects. But yeah, keep 1 2 good projects, something that you can speak about in your introduction. And in terms of mock interview, yeah, after you've done preparing, ask your seniors, possibly of the same company, for mock interviews. Like one day before my actual interview, I took a mock interview from Niranjan Bhaiya and Shashank Bhaiya. So you all can also do that. It's advisable to do that. Now, the rest of my presentation will be more focused on the way Google conducted its interview. So in a Google interview, you have In the coding round, so first you'll have a coding round, which will happen around third, fourth week of July, mostly. And if you get shortlisted, then there are two DSA interviews. Each DSA interview is for 45 minutes. You have 5 minutes for intro, 35 minutes for DSA questions, and 5 minutes for questions in the end if you want to ask. So as you can see, you just have 35 minutes for DSA, and they will mostly ask you two questions for sure. Either two questions or a question and a follow-up question. So you can see that you need to solve a single question in less than 17, around 15 minutes. So you need to be quick in the interview. So this is a general suggestion, prepare an intro properly. You're going to be using this intro in almost all your interviews. So it makes sense to prepare from before. Try to keep your interview interactive. See, it really depends on how you set the scene for your interview. If you're like extremely quiet all the time and you don't be that open about your thoughts and about what you are doing, then obviously the interviewer is also going to do the same. He's not going to put in any extra effort on his or her side. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I was not supposed to do this, but once my interviewer gave their introduction in the first 5 minutes, I just asked a few questions about her or her job, her role in the first 5 minutes itself. So that kind of set like a thing in which she openly guided me for the next entire time of the interview, whatever the essay questions were next. And the thing about these interviews is that they are supposed to guide you if you ask for hints or relevant questions. Some more tips about the interview. Do not be silent for too long. Keep speaking loud. You don't want your interviewer to zone out. Okay. And you know that you have just 15 minutes left. So doesn't make sense just aimlessly coding. First thing you do is you confirm with the interviewer. Only when they give you the heads up, then you start coding. And after every code you write, make sure to tell them the time complexity and space complexity. Even if you don't tell them, they will definitely ask you. All the four questions I did, they asked me the time complexity and space complexity, and they asked me if I could optimize it further. So most of the questions, so how you approach a question is basically give the brute force solution first in the first 4 5 minutes, and then go on to optimize it further. So I'll give you an example question later. So another thing about the Google interview is pace yourself. So this has happened to many of my batchmates and the senior batchmates also before. They were not able to complete the first question in time, which is why they weren't even asked the second question. So you might have felt that, yeah, you have done quite well in the first question, but they didn't get selected because the interviewer had a second question ready, which you didn't have time for. Another thing is that constraints. Always ask about the constraints. See, the interviewer, at least for me, she gave me a very, very vague question, like just two lines without any example, without any constraints. She was, the thing is, they expect you to ask them for these things. They expect you to ask them for an example test case. They expect you to ask them for constraints. Because when I asked her for an example, she had it ready. She just copy pasted it on the clipboard. So they are expecting you to ask. And another thing about constraints is it really gives you a hint about the question. If the constraint is say n is around 10 raised to 5, then it's obvious you can't give a n square solution. So that eliminates most of the usual DP methods. You would opt for a more greedy method in this case. So yeah, constraints will tell you about the method also. You need to solve the question. Then about variables and in general, write clean code because what I was told in my interview ka pre-session also was that the code you are going to write for your interview is not just judged by the interviewer, it is going to be passed forward and judged by some more people as well. So make sure to write sensible variables, sensible function names. Like, yeah, and just ask your interviewer if they want you to follow camel case, snake case, any other convention, and what to name your variables. Apart from that, right clean code, yeah. So I did, at least for Google, they didn't give me any platform like VS Code or even HackerRank where there's autocomplete and stuff. I was coding on something like a Google Doc or like a notepad, say. So there was no indentation, no autocomplete. That is something I had to do myself. So I suggest you all also to practice this way. Practice on notepad. And yeah, so that is it about my interview and how you perform in the interview. So yeah, so this is one of the questions I had got in my Google interview. So you all can read it, try it yourself. So I'll tell you all how I approached this. First thing I did was ask for constraints. I asked for this example. This example was also not given. Okay. Second thing was I told her my brute force solution, which was an n-square solution, basically making an array, setting all the things from 1 to 3 to 1, then adding another one from all the indexes from 2 to 4. That is the brute force solution, n-square time complexity. Then later, she was obviously not happy. She told me to optimize it. So I shifted to a more of n log n approach. I was started using ordered sets, unordered sets, basically getting the cars that arrived and exited. I added those car numbers in a unordered set, and then at any point in time, found out the size of the set. She still wanted me to optimize this further. Then finally, what I did was a prefix sum method. You, for all the indexes at the entry time, you incremented by one. For all the indexes at the exit time, you decremented by one, and then use prefix sum. So if you do this, you will get the final result array that you can see ahead. So this solution was of O of n time complexity, and it didn't use any extra space. So this is what the interviewer expected. This was one of the questions in my second interview, I think. So I had to solve this within 10 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, that's all from my side about Google.
Thank you so much, Ronan. Next up, we have Kushagra Malviya, who landed a SD internship at Oracle. He'll share how he prepared, what helped him during interviews, and his key takeaways from the process. Over to you, Kushagra.
Hello, guys. Thank you, Yatin, for the introduction. Uh, if I'm audible, I will begin. Everyone can hear me properly, right? Yeah. Thank you. I'll share my screen 1 second. Okay. So, yep. Ronan explained the DSA part beautifully. So I'll just breeze through the things that I feel what I did for my Oracle interview. Yeah, Shriver's A to Z sheet is basically a well-rounded resource, and you should do that first. Even if you're not able to complete it to the time constraints, at least do those problems that are like for graph. Do like for each topic, do at least 2 to 3 problems so that you at least know the concept well. If you feel that you are well versed with the concepts, what I felt during my initial, like when the initial companies came, was that they had more of a competitive programming approach. The problems were designed more that way, So I feel like you should also focus sometime like into those type of questions, because I was not initially uh, doing those questions, which is why a few of my initial interviews did not go well. So yeah, that is something that you should focus on. Um, I would suggest you should give more focus on the later topics, like topics such as dynamic programming, which was not traditionally covered in your DSA course, and even graphs, which is not like, I don't know, matlab for my time it was not that intensively covered. So yeah, these topics are what I feel should be more uh, put more thought should be put into these topics. So my online assessment was basically, it had two DSA questions followed by some MCQs, which had aptitude questions as well as the fundamentals questions on CS fundamentals, mostly your OOPs and databases concepts. I would suggest you prepare them mostly through, like Ronan said, you can use Kunal Kushwaha to breeze through your OOP concepts, and you can also use some documentations. I love WordPress documentation, and database is very good for a quick revision. And uh, like for OOPS, you should also know some Java fundamentals. I feel like they do ask questions. Like from my interview, I was asked questions on mostly on garbage collection and stuff like that. So I would say that you should focus more on those topics as well. Apart from that, if you feel like you have got the basic concepts covered, I would encourage that you start giving contests on any platform that you prefer, lead code, code forces. I did not do that because my DSA prep was not that well. But yeah, I genuinely feel that if I had done these things more, I would have had a better edge, especially in my initial interviews, initial coding rounds. I'm sorry. So yeah, these things are some of the things that you should uh, keep in mind. Following the second most important thing for my interview, I felt was resume. So here are some tips. Basically, first of all, the most important rule that you should follow is you should never lie on your resume. By lying, I mean like you should not put a tech stack that you're not familiar with. For example, if you have done JavaScript, you cannot simply put React and Node because they do have some different functionalities. They have some concepts that are associated to them. So don't put any unfamiliar tech stack on your resume, because by chance, if the interviewer is familiar with that tech stack, he might divert the interview towards. And if you are not able to answer, that would be a huge problem. Make sure that whatever resume you are making, it should be crisp and it should highlight your strengths and what you basically are comfortable with. Because if an interview asks you about your resume, you can divert it towards whatever topics that you are strong in, and that could buy you some time, and you will get comfortable in the initial 5 to 6 minutes of the interview. And the third point, as I said, that lying or like copy pasting projects from GitHub is not a good solution, because the interviewer is very well versed and he will just have a look and will find out that this is not a original project. That could even include projects such as very basic projects of, let's say, making a web app or for weather API and all that stuff. So make sure you have something original for them, even if you feel like you don't have time with your ongoing PS and DSA prep. I think that you have the OP projects and your TBMS projects. So focus on them. Even if you keep those two projects and you know well about them, that would be sufficient. this is something that I faced a problem with. I did not have formal attire to wear to, and that caused a bit of a problem. So yeah, please don't repeat my mistakes. Um, a basic formal attire would contain a good shirt, a set of comfortable trousers, and shoes. That's it. These three things. Make sure that formal shoes, of course, you have all of them prepared. And yeah, once so the first round, as I mentioned, was focused on DSA. The second
I
round was on DSA. Yeah, hello.
I have a doubt.
Yeah,
So
please.
should we start with OOPS or DSA first for SIP?
DSA should be a top priority because, as again I said, that
Okay.
you should clear out the online assessments before going into the interviews, and having a strong grasp on your algorithms and data structures concept would help a lot. And then you can move on to or subsequently side by side practice your OOP and DBMS.
Okay.
Any other doubts, or should I proceed?
You can proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so for the second round, I got the interviewer asked me a simple DSA question again, and then he followed it up with DBMS and OOP concepts. And I was kind of expecting DBMS questions because, again, it's Oracle, so yeah, you would expect that. But the he switched it up primarily to because he felt that I was comfortable with databases, so he started asking me OOP questions. Um, and those were very niche concepts about abstract classes and interfaces and all that. So yeah, be prepared for that scenario as well. And in the end, he asked me like a brain teaser, a aptitude question, which I was able to answer. So make sure that again when you prepare, so some of these companies do have apart from your traditional fundamentals of CS, they do ask you questions on your aptitude, or sometimes I heard one of the company gave even a guesstimate sort of question. So make sure that you are prepared for that as well. Ask your seniors who have given interviews in the company; they might be able to guide you well. So yeah, these were some of the question these were some of my experiences, but apart from that, I want to talk about something else that is not usually discussed. So once you start your the entire SIP cycle, there might be things that don't go your way. For example, you know how a question is solved, but you're not able to solve it, or even if you solved it, there's something and you are not get selected. So all of these are all of these are the variables that you cannot um, gauge or understand. So these things, don't let them get in your head too much, because I gave these coding rounds for like a month or so, and I was rejected in every single one of them. uh, I was not able to clear the interviews around up till Oracle. So yeah, that was something that got into my head, and I was kind of giving up. But it's very important that you do not give up. You keep practicing, uh, and keep brushing up your concepts, because 3-1 is difficult. You have your CDCs, you have everything, and then on top of that, if you have a POR, and then on top of that, you have these SIP things. So it might get tedious, but believe in yourself is what I say. Make sure that you are, like, let's say that if you are in a tech club, and if in any tech club, and you are developing and you have learned something, put that on your resume. Make sure that your resume is set apart from the crowd, so that you have something to talk about. And that is what I meant by making your resume highlighting your strong point, because you can kind of divert the interview towards uh, like topics that you are comfortable with, and if the interview starts at that note, you are much more relaxed for the subsequent questions and your mind is much more calm. This happened with me in the third round of Oracle. So I'll just give a brief. So as I mentioned, first two rounds were DSA. The third one was partially HR, partially technical. So it was more so on my resume. And since I had been doing like uh, I had been associated with Blitzkrieg and I had been doing all the ethical hacking and all that stuff. That was something that was unique to my resume. So I was able to divert topic toward that and made sure that I put forth the points that I knew very well and I was confident with. So that gives a good impression. So whether it be Kratos or any of the tech clubs that you are part of in, make sure that you put that on your resume in some shape or form. And yeah, do keep in contact with your seniors. Ask us doubts, ask us anything that you're not comfortable with, and we are there to help. So I think that would be pretty much from my side. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be there in the chat box to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushagra. That was indeed insightful. Our next speaker is Arjun Jagtap, who secured an internship at Arista Networks. He'll walk us through his approach to core subjects and how he cracked the interview. Over to you, Arjun.
Hey, hello guys. Yeah, so just answering the doubt sent first. Does doing projects in a specific domain and including it in your resume give you an advantage? Now, this, in my opinion, genuinely varies from companies to company, but most of them are not. Even the day zero or day one companies are not looking at this stuff in very like high, like it's good to have. For example, I did one project on computer networks basically, and that did help in my Arista interview, but it did not help in my other companies interviews because they don't care about that stuff. So again, that is company to company dependent. So yeah, just answering it out. So okay, so my slides are going to be very short, but uh, so let's talk about the preparation. So I was preparing, like I've been preparing for SIP since 2.2 itself. I started out with code forces and the impact that I don't think many people here talk about the impact that code forces has had on the quality of my SIP preparation. It has helped tremendously. And especially if you're aiming for, as Kushagra said, the earlier companies do ask more competitive programming kind of questions. In fact, Rubrik, which is the highest paying company on campus, is purely just code forces. Their interview is just competitive coding questions. They do not care about anything else. If you can solve the question, you have a very high chance of passing the interview. That's, and you will also see it in Google, D Shaw. So I could clear all of these OAs primarily because I have done CF. So if you have not started off, I would recommend practicing CF at least to get yourself some sort of exposure to what competitive coding questions look like. Because a lot of the top companies do ask this. Uh, yeah, especially in their coding rounds. Their interviews might still have traditional DSA, but their coding rounds primarily have a lot of competitive programming type questions. This reduces as the days go on, since mostly only the day zero, day one companies primarily focus on CF. But okay, CF aside, of course, Striver sheet I think is a at least a must do if you want to get a good grasp on DSA. And like you should really have aim to have a very good grasp on DSA, because like you don't even, without that you wouldn't even get your foot into the door. Like I was lucky enough to be shortlisted for a lot of interviews, but that is only because I had a very strong DSA background and I could give a lot of day zero and day one. I gave a lot of day zero and day one interviews because of my DSA and code forces. So Striver is good for mostly everything up till DP. It just doesn't cover some like more advanced concepts, which honestly you don't really require. Make sure if you have not done a lot of coding before, make sure you at least understand everything in Striver. That should be more than enough for most companies. But yeah, like do Striver on lead code. You can, there's other things for lead code such as needcode.io. Anything honestly works. Like you can like if you want more resources on it, please DM me. Like for specific topics or for specific websites, please DM. CSCS is very very good for, again, some trees and graphs, range queries. If you want to go into some more advanced topics, CSCS is great. You can practice your segment trees if you have a good DSA. So CSCS is just another website. You can just search for it. It's cscs.com. It is a set of traditional competitive, not competitive programming as such, but yeah, programming questions, like a traditional set of programming questions of varying topics. It's a very good resource to get to learn a topic in detail. Like their DP is amazing, their graphs and trees is really good, and I practiced some range queries just in case somebody asked them. So yeah. So my primary preparation was DSA. I would say that once you clear the interview, you should focus on OOP and DBMS. Like that is something you can study after you pass your interview. For OOP and DBMS, oops, I just did GFG's articles. Like there's a ton of articles. There's a very, very good sheet that if you DM me on WhatsApp, like I have to find it, but some that a guy in Algomaniacs created that covers a lot of what they ask in OOPs, which is it's a really good preparation sheet. Basically, if anybody wants it, please DM, or I'll try to find the link and I'll paste it on the chat. So for OOP and DMMS, I just followed everything given in that, and I prepared like a day or two before the interviews. But it is still something important. In OOPs, especially, make sure you're clear on the language you want to give an OOPs interview in. So if you have done OOPs in Java, but if you're doing DSA in C++, then you might not be very strong in Java since it's almost a year later, right? So you can do oops in C++ as well. And both of these, as Kushagra said, like he was asked garbage collection, which doesn't exist in C++. So depending on the language you use, the questions you might be asked is different. So make sure you prepare in the language that you're familiar with, and make sure you let your interviewer know, okay, I have done oops in C++, and that is what I'm comfortable in, so that there is no scope of misunderstanding. For DBMS, they don't ask more than SQL and some concepts. But yeah, it is also worth preparing, especially, again, this depends a lot from company to company. Some companies, they want really good OOPS and DBMS, and some companies don't prefer something else. Or some companies, like Arista asked MUPI to one of their candidates in the interview. Honestly, I would say the preparation for the interview genuinely varies on what each company does and what each company requires. So it's not like a set list of things. So, but all these DSA is universal by far and away. I would say just to get your foot into the door, you need to do DSA. To pass your in one of your interview rounds for sure is going to be purely DSA. So please make sure that you all have practiced enough. Okay, so that is just preparation. I think other people covered it in good detail as well. So other stuff, CGPA is one thing. It's good to have a good CGPA because as much as companies say resume shortlisting, there is nothing like resume shortlisting. It is CGPA shortlisting. So even if you clear OAs, do well in OAs, and a lot of people do well in OAs, if you have a good CG, you have a very good chance of being shortlisted. I'm being very honest. And a lot of and like high paying companies like Rubrik had a 8.5 cutoff. I think JPMC, when they come for their hackathon, also have a 8.5 cutoff. So having a decent CGPA, of course, does help. And as much, and I know it's not directly asked in your interviews or anything, and it should not be a measure of your skill. Unfortunately, it is. So I mean, there's no point saying that increase your CGPA ना अभी तो हो गया सब जो भी company दे रहा है, make sure that you give the companies properly, because it does help, and you never know when it is going to be the tiebreaker. So I would say that CGPA is very important. In fact, I would say after DSA, CGs probably gave me the most opportunities out of all of my other skills. Your resume, again, I don't think they are very, like, I've seen resumes which are very empty also past like day one companies. It's not the biggest priority. Of course, there's a sense of security you get when you have a good resume and you have done projects. So if you all have time, you all can definitely do at least one oops project, as Kushagra said. Like you can like it shouldn't be something directly from GitHub. You should make your own changes. Make sure you're well versed with whatever you put on your resume. Please don't lie. If they catch you, it's mostly an immediate rejection. Like there's no consideration after that. And if you have lied, please make sure you whatever you've lied about, you've studied in detail so that whatever questions they ask, you can answer them at least and you don't get caught. Your resume doesn't need to be very full. Do not worry if you don't have a lot of things there. They don't expect you to have a lot of things there. uh, have a few interesting projects, since like just based on my rubric experience, and they do ask for all of this. Like HR does care. Some the companies which have HR rounds in top companies, they do really look at your resume in detail, and if you've done interesting things, it is really like it excites them as well. So have interesting projects, whatever. And yeah, like it doesn't need to be a very full resume. Like I don't think that is what they primarily focus on. So don't worry about it, at least, because they don't expect you to have a very strong project heavy etc resume. So you're doing whoever's doing PS, like make sure that you do your PS well, because your PS is another thing you can add into your resume. Whatever it is, you have something to talk about. Yeah, so like resume का वहाँ तक ही काम आता है, after you pass your DSA stuff. So DSA again should be your primary focus. Okay, so mainly what I want to talk about is interviews. I gave a lot of, like, I don't say a lot, but I gave a lot of day zero interviews. I gave Rubrik, D Shaw, Microsoft. I gave Intuit, and then I finally got Arista. So even though I had prepared a lot, it doesn't really go into your always go in your favor. So how to prep for interviews? I would say the biggest is, please give mocks. Like yeah, it does differ company to company as well, but please give mocks. Make your friends give you mocks. Ask your seniors to give you mocks. Mock interviews are tremendously helpful in identifying the areas you need to work more on. And I would say there is it helps a lot. Like I'm very happy my friends took mocks, because I would have probably failed Arista as well if I did not give mock interviews. Prepare, of course, the 5 minute introduction to is fine. Everyone will prepare that and go. Make sure you identify what are the weak points. Like example, in my resume, like my PS1 was not very good. They didn't make me do a lot of work, and that was out of my hands, right? But it was not good to tell that in this way to the company. So I kind of directed my interview to the points in my resume that I was strong, and just spoke about my internship very briefly so that they don't ask questions on it. And I myself moved on to the next topic without letting them ask me more questions. So all of this does help. Like make sure that once you have your resume ready, someone takes a resume mock as well, or like kind of an HR round for you as well. uh, Again, most of you will prepare a lot in these 2 months, and I'm just going to talk about the mental side of things. uh, like it might not always work out. So the biggest things I've learned after giving like 4 or 5 interviews in that 1 week was, firstly, you should trust the effort you've put in. You have worked these 2 months, you've probably worked a lot, and that counts for something. It is not useless. It will definitely help you in some interview or the other in the future. Even if you feel like, okay, things are not going well right now, you should put some more faith in yourself and your hard work. It is luck plays a big factor. So again, you might be asked a question that is totally random and vague. Like D Shaw asked me to create a leaderboard system, which was a very vague question, a DSA question to ask. uh, but my friends got like a normal lead code or code forces type of question, where you get constraints, where you get an up. So like luck plays a massive factor in this entire process. Honestly, like you can be the best candidate sitting in the interview, but you might not land the role just because you were unlucky. And that is something that does happen. It is out of everybody's hands, and I hope, like, I do not want any of you all to sit and dwell too much on it. You should be happy for, in the sense that you should, like, it gets a bit challenging to then keep yourself motivated, because you know how hard you've worked, and all of these things do happen. So, but I want you to know that it's luck does play a big factor. Sometimes you'll be lucky, and some people will get lucky, and some people will take some time, and that's absolutely fine. The only thing you can do in that case is, right, prepare well. That's the only thing you can really control, right? So please make sure you'll prepare well. How interviewers take interviews varies from company to company. Now, what this means is that, okay, so uh, a company might have a specific style of taking an interview. For example, Rubrik is very, very, very helpful during the interview. They want you to solve the question. If you can talk to your interview, you can discuss the question. The Rubrik people are more than happy enough to, discuss the question, as long as you finish. As they do have a time limit, of course, but like, they will help you out during the question, because that's what they want to test how well you can communicate, because the questions they ask are challenging. Rubrik is the highest paying company that comes here. They they are not going to give you easy questions in your OA, nor are they going to ask you easy questions in the interview. So they do, so like, they want you to solve the question, so they help you out. While Shaw basically told me nothing. I had no idea. I thought my interview was going well, but that is just because they didn't give me any feedback on any question they asked. So do not have any preconceived notions on, okay, I gave this interview, ऐसे गया, अभी मेरा अगला interview भी, my next interview will also go in this way, or the interview will ask questions in this way. It changes, and honestly it is something to keep note of, because I was like, I gave rubric and then I had D-Shaw, so I was on the notion ki, okay, if I do something wrong, the D-Shaw people will come and tell me. So I very confidently spouted whatever I knew, thinking, and they didn't say anything, so I thought I was right, but I was not. So, like, please do not go with that mindset ki, okay, now that I've given one or two, my next interviews might go similarly. There are a lot of opportunities ahead. Fair. This was something I had to tell myself, because, like, giving constantly, like, it's taxing. You give an interview, you fail, and like the next day there is a coding round. The next to next day there's another coding round. In the first 2-3 weeks, there's just a lot of coding rounds and a lot of interviews, and it gets taxing, honestly. Like, mentally it gets challenging, like coming back to your room after failing an interview and having to give a coding round later. uh I'm just gonna say it's happened with a lot of people. It's gonna happen with y'all, maybe. Hopefully it doesn't, and you'll pass your first interview. But if it does, I just want you all to know there's a lot of opportunities that will keep coming. Please don't give up so fast. uh all of this is a very temporary, like, all this BT is a very temporary thing, right? Because you've had a tough day, and you've not and you failed an interview. You tend to think of all the things you've not done and everything you're bad at, and that does happen. It's tough. This phase is very tricky to navigate, especially if this is the first time sitting for like interviews and jobs or whatever. This is when, like, college gets kind of real. I don't want to scare y'all, but if I wish I knew these things before going in, like, but at the same time, if you have done good preparation, I will guarantee that you will get an internship. If not now, down the line for sure, right? So it's okay. You can take a few days for yourself, and also, okay, take care of yourself. It's a stressful time. Now this applies to both when your interviews start, as well as when your as well as during these months of preparation. So July and June. July is when companies start to give OAs, and you're giving it from the comfort of your home. It's probably your first time doing something as stressful as this, and it does get taxing. Make sure you talk to your friends, have a good friend group that keeps you going, right? Prepare with people. Alone, it's genuinely very, very tough. Like, I would not recommend doing this all by yourself. uh, Make time for yourself to relax, talk to your family. They'll be your biggest support. Because yeah, there are many people who do get one interview and clear it, and it's all well and good for them. But for many people and for most people, it is a process. It is a slog, right? Like, and it can get very mentally draining and challenging. And please talk to your seniors, and like they have gone through this themselves, and make sure that okay, before a big thing, you're in a good, you're well rested. You're not thinking about too much other stuff. And for that, I think the biggest thing is having a good friend group who keeps you going. And right, exactly, having the support of family, and that is something you have to create for yourself. Please don't be cocky and be like, "Ki, I don't need all this," because it does get challenging. I'm not going to lie, like it does. So I wanted to focus more on this side of things, because if you have prepared well, I guarantee that you will get something. But it might not. It might. I don't want you to give up in the process. And all of these things are natural. Please feel free to DM any of us if you have any doubts. I think that I'm done from my side. Uh, so best of luck. Prepare well. I'm sure most of you all will do great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. That was really insightful. Lastly, we have Shiv Patel, who secured an off campus internship at Abluga. He'll talk about building a strong profile, applying off campus, and what worked for him. Over to you, Shiv.
Hello, everyone. I am Shiv, and before I start, I'll just I think so. Yatin, right? Yatin told you guys that I secured an off-campus internship. So my presentation would be a bit different from what like Arjun, Kushagra, and Ronan told you. I'll just give me a minute. I'll just share my screen. Uh, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
visible.
Okay, so starting with off-campus, I hope everyone knows what off-campus means. It basically means that you are not applying for, like, not exactly not applying, but you are also applying for companies which are like not coming for recruiting on campus. Like they are not brought by the PU. You are applying for companies via their portals or like LinkedIn or anywhere. I'll get into those later. Okay. Plus, one thing I'll mention is that my slides are not that descriptive. So they're just a thing for that, so that I don't forget anything while speaking. So first is like, why should you go for off-campus, considering that RPU is doing such a great job bringing companies, which is a very valid question. But what my thing is, I applied for both, for on-campus as well as off-campus. And generally, what people do with off-campus is once they feel that okay, I've tried a lot for on-campus companies, but I'm not getting an offer or I'm not getting shortlisted for interviews. I'll start applying for off-campus as well, right? But that was not the case with me. I think so. I started applying for off-campus companies as soon as like the on-campus interview started. I think so. That was early August or something. Okay. Why should you apply for off-campus? First thing is that you get more options. Uh, Assume you want a very good summer internship, but let's say you are very good at something, let's say machine learning, or you're very good at like quant. Okay, while all the companies that come for hiring during SIP season are mostly for software development roles. Okay, so in this case, if you are good at let's say machine learning or some different type of stuff, you can search for roles which are more suitable for you there. Okay, and also you get a lot more options on companies. Like for example, if you want to work at a company like, let's say, OpenAI or Anthropic, the company that designs Claude. So such companies do not come for on campus. Even if you want to work at Meta, So for such companies, you have an option to apply for off campus. Another benefit is that you can apply for foreign positions as well. So that would be a good thing if you want to in the future want to work in foreign nations such as like UK, US, Europe. Sometimes as the companies are situated in foreign countries, you can expect a higher pay as well. And there are like a huge amount of remote options when you go for off campus. And again, if you want to like apply for, let's say, HFTs, high frequency trading companies, there are not, I don't think so any company came for on campus HFT, like any HFT company came for on campus hiring this season. Generally they don't come for like SIPs. Not sure about placements though, but yeah, in such cases you can go for HFTs as well. And you can also get a bit more flexibility in some cases. I'll elaborate on all of this when I get to my experience with the off-campus thing. Okay, but yeah, obviously there are a few downsides. So the biggest downside is the first step of the application, and that is called that's what you call, just a minute, that's what you call resume shortlisting. Yeah, as on campus you don't have you generally don't have resume shortlisting. You directly give the coding round, the OA. Here during off campus applications, you have the first step is always resume shortlisting, for the fact that there are like tens of thousands of applicants for just a single role. So they have to shortlist you on basis of resume shortlisting. But don't worry, I'll tell you how to like get through these steps as well. Okay, so basically there is a lot more competition for off campus, because people who are not in like, for the colleges who do not have a very good placement unit type structure, the students mostly rely on off campus opportunities. Okay, and again for off campus the application rate is relatively like application acceptance rate is relatively lower than on campus, obviously, because the number of applications is like exponentially more. And this may happen that your application can go unviewed by the recruiters itself, just because there is a huge volume of applications. And I'm just like briefly going over the downsides. Sometimes there is not even a provision for PPO, that's pre-placement offer. And yeah, that's basically the thing. So, but I'll just go through all the steps of off campus that might help you a bit. So yeah, I'll go on with the roadmap. Okay, so like I'll go through the roadmap basically. So first of all, it's optimizing your resume, because resume shortlisting is the first step. Then you have to search for companies, the companies which you are interested for, the roles which you are like interested for. Then you have to just keep applying to companies, because obviously I told you the acceptance rate is low. And again, you can, this is an optional thing, but yeah, you can cold mail or contact HRs and employees from the companies. I'll go on one by one on every single point. First of all is your resume. Your resume is basically the thing that represents you in your application. It consists of everything related to your academics, your projects, your experience, everything. So that is basically your resume is all the recruiter knows about you at the first stage. So that is a very important thing in like off campus. So how do you optimize your resume? So for resume, your first thing is your ATS score. For like companies, like I mentioned, like if you take Meta or Apple, or even like some like multinational companies which have like $1 billion uh, valuation and stuff. So those companies generally have a ATS. ATS is application tracking system, which has a score. And if your score generally falls below 75, it's on a 100 scale. If it falls below 75, there's a very good chance that your resume might not be even opened by the recruiter. Okay. So you have to maintain a good ATS score. How do you check your ATS score? You have to go to like there are a lot of services on the web which can do it. The one I use is called Resume Worded, WORDED, Worded. Okay, but there are a lot of services which check your resume ATS score. And what are the factors on which the score is calculated? It's the content, the formatting, and even small things like the template, the font size. It might sound petty, but yes, this is the situation with resumes. So coming to the template and formatting, for off-campus, one thing which you should always keep in mind is never use the superset resume, because the superset resume, I don't think so the template would let you cross more than 40 ATS score ever. And I would suggest having at least a 75 score resume while applying for off campus. So you have to design your resume using a well-defined template uh, on I would prefer doing it on using latex on overleaf or something, or you can also do it by Google Docs, but latex is preferred because it is it is what generally everyone does. Okay, and for the template, if anyone, I think so, I have my template stored somewhere. I'll search for it later. If I find it, I'll share it. Otherwise, just drop me a text anywhere. I'll search for it and send it later. Okay. Font size. If you think you want to note this down, you can also note this. That font size is also a very important thing, and I would suggest it's between 8 and 11. uh, Trust me, you might find like what is this guy yapping about, but trust me, this is a very important thing in your resume. Okay. And more than one page resume, a very big red flag. Never have more than one page resume. Always try to keep your resume within one page. And this is actually not a very tough task unless you have like numerous and insane level projects and experiences that you can't even afford skipping a single one. Other than that, you won't need to worry about having your resume in just one page. And also like keep your email, LinkedIn, and GitHub, if you have GitHub hyperlinked and stuff in your resume, because generally you're gonna share the soft copy of your resume everywhere. And you should describe everything about your resume in bullet points, and about your projects, about your experience, everything. Try to keep it in bullet points, like 2 to 3 bullet points. Just search for like good resumes on the web. You'll find like tons of examples. And obviously, like I would suggest searching for resumes pertaining to India, US, and UK, because they follow a similar template. For if you look at some other countries and all, you might find a different version of resumes which have photograph and stuff. Okay, so coming to the appeal of the document, your document should obviously look neat, the margin and stuff. And never include your photograph in your resume, at least while you're applying to India, US, or Europe. It's not at all required. Like honestly, no one cares if you have your photograph. It will just occupy space, and the recruiter might think that you're just trying to eat up space by putting your photograph. And other than that, yeah, no need to keep the logo of bits as well. Like generally, that won't make a big of difference. And also not your ID number and stuff. Okay, coming to the content, your experience and projects should take up majority of your resume. Okay, so like experience, I don't think so you would have much other than your PS1. Projects, a lot of like Kushagra and Ronan and Arjun mentioned, you might not have a good number of projects right now, but if you have some SOP or something, an informal one as well, you can mention that as well. Other than that, if you can mention some project of your own, if you have, or a course project, if you have a project for your OOPS or something. Okay, and yes, the projects matter a lot basically. There are always a lot of questions in interviews during like your interviews. If you land up an interview, they're gonna uh, grill you on your projects. So make sure your projects are like well understood. Yeah, do not lie about projects. I'll mention it again. Okay. Education, certification, skills, you can mention this. Education, obviously, you are going to mention. Don't mention your 10th and 12th grade marks, they are useless. Certifications, if you have any, if you have some Coursera certification or something, you can mention that. Skills, obviously, mention your technical skills, your soft skills. If you know some frameworks in Python or something like NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, you can mention them as well. Yeah, you can also mention stuff like extracurriculars, your PORs, but make sure it does not overpower your academic sections. And coming to one of the most like the sought after thought is your CGPA. While in off campus, like obviously the other three speakers, they have a CGPA higher than me. I do not have a very good CGPA. I am not 8 plus. So what I do is I do not write my CGPA in my resume, which is a total, which is not at all problematic. You are free to hide your CGPA, and I would honestly suggest you to hide your CGPA unless you have a 9 plus CGPA. Okay, in your off-campus resume. Okay, make sure your off-campus and on-campus resumes are different. And how one important thing which a lot of people don't know, if you are describing your projects and experiences, make sure that you have at least one bullet point in your at least one numeric value in every single bullet point you are explaining the project or experience. Okay, this is just a slide which tells you how to look for companies. Just look out on LinkedIn, social media. Like LinkedIn jobs are like quite efficient to find internships, and you can find like companies which are not that famous here. There are a lot of influencers. I don't think so influencer is the correct word, but yeah, there are a lot of people as such who post a lot of openings, like new openings and stuff on LinkedIn posts. So you can go and follow them. You can also like use platforms like Glassdoor, Indeed, Unstop. Yeah, also try to find referrals. Referrals help a lot during off campus. I don't think so they would help during on campus, but yeah, during off campus, referrals help a lot. Just search for alumni who are working at the company if there are on LinkedIn, and just message them in any way possible. You can use extensions like Signal Hire. So what Signal Hire does is you can get the email ID of the person if you are willing to get to an employee or an HR or even a senior who you want a referral from. If you are willing to cold mail, have a good template for it. Just search on the web, you'll find like very good templates for cold mails. The basic thing is you have to make yourself stand out as much as possible in your application. Otherwise, they will just not even give like a bit of attention to it. Okay. Okay. So basically, I'll just go through the application process quickly, and then I'll move to how about my experience. So for application, you just apply on the career site basically, or in some cases you apply through LinkedIn. Then you have to like be patient. Off-campus applications generally take a lot more time to get a reply on. Then if your resume gets shortlisted, then you'll have a coding round if you are going for a position which needs a good coding fundamentals. If you're going for, let's say, an AI or ML based, they can have a MCQ test or something. But basically, like an online assessment, basically. And after that, they'll have interviews. Interviews depend largely on companies. I have given like a pretty much good amount of off-campus interviews, and they depend a lot. Some companies might have just one interview. Some companies can have like 4 to 5 interviews. Okay. And approaching the HRs and employees is a point when is something which you do when you are like very desperate to join that company. Assume if you are like, okay, OpenAI is my dream company or Apple is my dream company, I would suggest just search for an HR, mail them or send them your resume via mail as well, just in case if they view it, you have a better chance there as well. Okay, coming to the point which relates to me a lot is applying for positions in foreign countries. Why doing there? Why doing this? Because obviously the pay is like very very good compared to what you would get generally in Indian roles. So what happens is in countries like the US, there is no on-campus hiring in any institute generally. All the students, all the grads, they have to apply off campus. That's the only thing. So yeah, you can also take advantage of that. Like there is no on-campus hiring, so the seats, all the open roles are open to basically everyone. And every student, every applicant is at the is at the same level during application as you. And coming to the interviews, for foreign countries, interviews are a lot more vast compared to deep. Like I remember I had an interview with Adobe, and in the Adobe interview, what they asked me was just basic DSA. They asked me the difference between a linked list and a vector. Okay, which is like very, very, very trivial. I think so. Like that is taught. Like I don't think so. That's even taught in your DSA course. They ask very, very easy and trivial stuff, but they ask a lot of stuff. So they ask OS, they ask OOPS, they ask DBS, they even ask networks, they ask system design, but the basics of everything. They don't go like if it's DSA, they don't go into like lead code hard DP problems. They would just go on the surface like easy max medium problems. But even the same with OOPS and other stuff as well. They'll go on the surface, but they'll ask everything for sure. Yeah. Okay. Also coming to the HR or soft skills interview, they are very particular about that. Because what I learned from my Adobe interviews that they they believe that you can always teach technical skills to the person, but yeah, you can't modify the attitude of the person. So the HR interview also holds a very big impact during your off campus, especially when you're applying to foreign countries. Okay. So yeah, even coding tests are comparatively very easy. Like it's generally lead code easy and medium. I don't think so I have ever come across a coding test which has lead code hard questions. And they coming to the resume part, they focus a lot on like volunteering activities, extracurriculars. If you have a POR, just mention it in your off-campus resume. Have a different resume for applying to foreign countries. Yeah, I get it. It might be a tough task to like maintain a lot of resumes, but yeah, it's like a one-time thing. So like mention your PORs or extracurriculars. They would give you an extra edge. Like generally, they prefer having such stuff in their employees or interns. Okay. And if one thing is, at some applications, they might ask you your CGPA. So there is a very good catch here. For the CGPA conversion to the grades scale of 4, like we have a CGPA out of 10. But in the US, there's a scale of 4. I think so in the UK also there's a scale of 4. So how does the conversion work? It's basically if you have a C or above, that means you are getting 4 on 4. Okay. It might sound a bit funny or unreal, but yeah, you can check it up. It's on Wikipedia as well. If you have a grade point of 6 or above on a scale of 10, you basically have 4 on 4. So right now, if at my CGPA is currently 7.3, but my GPA out of 4 is 3.97, which is a very, very big thing. So if they are asking you your GPA at any point, you can state that your converted GPA is so much out of 4. I don't think so anyone here would have a GPA less than 3 in any case. It's not directly divided by 2.5. It's a conversion which is followed. Just search it up on Wikipedia. Okay. And in the end, I just ended up with my personal experience. So I had two major experiences. One of them was at Adobe, and the second one was at Abluva, the place I'm working. Adobe. It was in Scotland, Edinburgh, like Scotland. Okay. The mode was hybrid. It was 3+3, and the role was a software development intern in Java. I applied on the portal. The hiring process was basically they first shortlisted my resume. They had a coding round. Then they had two technical interviews and one soft skills interview. I did land up cracking all the interviews, but there was some issue with the college, which I was not able to clear out. So I had to basically give up the internship in the end. And yeah, that's a different story itself, why I had to give up. But yeah, coming to the interviews, the first interview, they asked me DSA, very basic DSA and Java basics. It was a 1 hour interview. The second interview, they asked me like everything they could. They asked me OOPS, they asked me OS, they asked me system design, they asked me DBS. Surprisingly, they asked me computer networks as well. They asked me computer architecture as well. Very basic stuff, but they did ask me. And yeah, so this is the experience with Adobe. Coming to my current internship at Adobe, that was with that was why the second option which I mentioned earlier. I contacted like I think so here, yeah, I mentioned here contacting an employee, and through which I landed up the position. It's again the same thing. I got a like a coding tester resume. Sorry, not resume. My technical interview, my HR interview. And generally, they didn't ask me a lot. They asked me DSA, OOPS, a little bit OS, or like deadlock management and stuff. But yeah, that was basically the my experience. I won't go into it much detail. It's already covered by a lot of like generally off-campus interviews are pretty much not that intense compared to on-campus, which is something which I have realized. Yeah, I think so. I'm done.
That was great. Thank you so much, Chef. Now I'll be moving to the Q&A round. This is your chance to ask anything you are curious about your preparation, interviews, projects, off-campus tips, or even dealing with rejections. I'll start off with one question, which I saw like mostly repeated in the chat. What are the CGPA cutoff for your respective companies, and what is that bare minimum benchmark for a good CGPA to all the speakers?
Okay, I'll start. For I think for Oracle it was 1 second, it was 7, I think. But yeah, anything a good CGPA, the best thing that you can get is anything above 8.5. I think above 8.5, you won't have any issues of getting into any of the companies, any interviews, any hackathon. I did not have that, unfortunately. But yeah, anything above 8 is also still good. You get to sit in like 90%, 80% of the companies. Um, and for CS students, they are a bit lenient, majority of the later companies. So you can even have, if you have like a 7.5 or a CGPA above 7, that is a very safe bet, I would suggest. Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, next question is, what helped you stand out during your interviews?
Um, for me personally, I think it was, again, as I said, that my technical club helped me a lot, because you don't see a lot of people with ethical hacking on their resume. So yeah, that helped me stand out quite a lot. But apart from that, that only have like a wow factor for let's say 2 to 3 minutes. But then again, it's up to your skills that you have learned throughout your CS courses and basically DSA, oops, all that stuff.
Okay, and for others?
So I think for me it would have been my GSOC, because even in the GSOC form it was mentioned that any candidate who clears GSOC, their resumes are going to be GSOC preferred, basically highlighting your resume. and also my PORs and my other projects, which I did mention in my introduction itself.
Okay. So there's one question which I can see. Until which semester is the CGPA calculated for like SI, and is it same for dualites? Anyone?
Yeah, so the CGPA till your like for single degree students would be mostly till your 2-1 and 2-2 as well, depending. For I think the initial companies, we did not had our grades come out yet. So for that, 2-1 was the grade mark. But I think for the later stages, when your once your grade are out, your 2-2 CGPA is also SGPA is also included. So yeah. And again, same for the dualites, so 3-1, 3-2 respectively.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the IT track of SIP Talks. I hope all of you found the session informative, motivating, and full of practical insights. A big thank you once again to Ronan, Kushagra, Arjun, and Shiv for sharing their journeys so openly. All the best to everyone preparing for your internships, and remember, consistency and curiosity go a long way. Now, we will begin with the consulting and electronics part of SIP Talks.